afternoon, everyone. Yes, I said afternoon because we are doing a live show from the International Space Development Conference here in McLean in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, from the Hilton Hotel. Everybody cheer, give a wave, give a cheer. See, they exist, they're real. And they're here. We're going to have a great time today talking about all sorts of things involving the conference and a lot of other interesting items that we're probably going to be talking about all weekend. And we're going to have a lot of special guests coming in and give us a taste of what they're going to be presenting about and everything else. And now, and my good buddy Michael Lane is here with us, and so I don't have to give him a special introduction because he's right here next to me. We've done that already.
No more cult of the elevator.
At the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is the unknown quantity. This is a professional outfit. Okay, guys, as you know, this podcast is in fact brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. And what do? We do advocacy and activity and all sorts of action to help small and medium-sized companies in space and other areas, mostly space, all around the world through access and advocacy. And our world-class boot camps and our special investment summits have been going on around the world for years, and we add a lot of value to that. And we've introduced like 98 companies in the world since we started all this. So there we go. Everything we do is paid for by you. It's supported by you. And so if you go to our website, cscf.space/support, and hit that nice little donate button, a little in the tip jar each month makes a huge difference. Thank you for your support in advance. And also, thanks for just being here and being you guys, because you're great. And we I just lost what I was going to say, but we're a live show, no pressure. We're just going on with this. And so, but anyway, I was trying to do this thing from memory. I have this little script that I read, so I thought I did okay with it.
I'll tell you, a little tip jar each month makes a difference.
Okay, like, subscribe, tell your friends. And speaking of friends, there you are. And so you're already here. So, okay. What should we start with? There's so much interesting stuff going on already.
The world changed a lot last week. It's going to change again next week.
Yeah.
So,
and we're not even talking about the Elon Musk. Yeah, the SpaceX IPO. Oh, that. Yeah, we're not even talking about that yet. I'm talking about the big boom, the big bada boom that happened last week. The mushroom cloud off the pad. My God, it was a lovely explosion. But what do you do with it now? I guess that makes some interesting.
That's a poster explosion. What that was.
Yeah, we're just happy to get some input from you guys too. So that's what it's here for: live, interactive, unscripted, and sometimes, in my case, messed up. So there you go. But yeah, what does that do? What do you that do? Of course, big thing blows up on the pad. He says he's going to build another one, and he's going to build it quickly, and okay. But I think the FAA might have something to say about that first. That could delay things. And then there's all the dependencies that happened with that explosion that we're still beginning to count.
It's the dependencies that I'm concerned about, right? You've got everybody was counting on Blue for Artemis, right? And it's not just one company had a bad day. It's a series of half a dozen or a dozen downstream developments that are going to get delayed or killed altogether. We got some weird feedback on your side. Is there something else?
No,
he sounds fine. Okay, all right. Okay, no worries.
It sounds fine at your end. I mean, that's what matters. I mean,
yeah. Michael's a little muffled because he doesn't have a mic under him. He needs to sit in your lap and talk to them.
I'll speak up.
Okay.
All
right.
So it's the downstream effects that I'm most concerned about. Yes, it's a bad day for Blue. It has
they were holding mourning, and they were having interventions, not interventions. That's not the word. They
He's
were
doing it
having-
too now. Look at him.
Yeah, no, they were having like counseling sessions in Blue in Kent last week, right? It was a big deal because people pour their heart and soul into this thing, and you know, I know some folks that used to work at Blue. They're like, hey, you know, if anybody wants to talk, if anybody wants to,
Yeah.
and so yeah, Blue is having a bad day, no question about that. But the follow-on elements of their satellite network used to be Kuiper, now called Leo. Those things are important too, right? That Amazon stock took a hit that week, right? But it's all of the other suppliers, all of the other folks that were buying rides. Their missions are delayed. Who knows? 6 months, a year, 18 months. I've heard all three of those numbers, and none of them are good. So you're anywhere in that supplier network, you're having a bad day.
Two in particular, something I want to mention. One, of course, Amazon Leo, big dependency with them to get that first stage of their satellites up there. And so I don't know how long they're going to have to wait to get another ride, or who to get a ride with. If they're with Blue, they're going to wait a while. The other thing, of course, is Blue Moon. And now NASA wants to test both Blue Moon and the SpaceX entry in Earth orbit with Artemis 3 sometime next year. And of course, the question is, how does Blue Moon get up there? You know, are they gonna hitch a ride on a Falcon Heavy? Wouldn't that be a delicious, brutal irony? You know,
But that should be possible.
it should be.
Right?
But God, there's
a monopoly environment is not good for
but the laughter will not be contained by
Yeah,
out there.
but if you remember the standardization that we talked about with Dr. The guy that we had on just recently. I mean, the military kind of drove that from global trade. They're the ones that drove standardization. It could be the same thing. It could be out of national interest.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody heard. We've had on our show a lot of conversations about standardization, taking this industry where everybody's developing bespoke systems and custom hardware, and building out integration systems and standards that this industry is missing. And we've brought in Dr. Levinson twice now,
Right.
And he talked about how the shipping industry absolutely transformed as a result of the Navy imposing standards back just prior to World War II. And then that led to containerizations, and that led to global trade. And how can we
Right, because he literally wrote the book on the shipping container. This guy literally sold the box. You can find it; they still sell it. I highly recommend you give it a look. But that got us, after that first show, that got us into this incredible conversation about, well, how do we standardize that which is essentially, we're beyond a 2D level environment, but a 3D, microgravity environment. How would that change everything? You're not sending the same old box up there. You're going to send something. I mean, we got to custom design something, and what kind of a ship will it fit in, and how do we build it? And those conversations are still ongoing. And so something's going to come out of that. I'm not sure yet.
And so back to your original point, is there even possible a connector between the Blue Moon and a SpaceX? Because I do not like this monopoly role that we're in right now. So,
and if nothing else, I'm okay. I mean, Elon's motives, I think, are pretty good, as a businessman on this topic or any other, a lot of other topics. But, for me, but
we don't do politics in this room.
No, we don't do that in this room. That's right. It wasn't me this time. Oh my God. Now, where was I? I was going to say, oh no, I think it's nobody in business at that level has the pure motives all the time. But he's certainly a man. Right? What else do you think of him, Walt? He's certainly a man who could see his opportunities and take them.
Who's going to do three-dimensional air traffic control? That's what I want.
I know at least one company, a startup company, who's doing something with that right now. Yeah.
International issue, right?
Yep, it is. And actually, it's a European startup that's looking to do it. That was one of those links that we didn't talk about the other night because I have too many. I have to curate these news items, and we only have maybe room for 9 or 10 before we get the guest on. And so some weeks I'll have like 16, 18 items. Okay, they're all good. So how do I pare this down? So it's that was one of them. There's a early stage company coming out of Europe that wants to do just that exactly.
Let's talk about a little bit about what we're doing here today. This is we normally do an hour show, and we usually put in a bunch of news, right? 10, 12, 8 articles, and then we have a guest, and that's normally what our Thursday looks like. We're doing something different this time. We're having live interaction with our audience. So we're happy to be here at ISDC, and so we do want to pull folks in from the audience to talk a little bit about what they're up to, what they're working on, why they're here. So this should be kind of an interactive, conversational show. So we want to encourage that.
I've also invited folks. I know there are folks in our track we're doing tomorrow that want to have them, come up and do a little tease about what they're going to talk about tomorrow. We can actually start with you because we're doing a really wonderful panel on the main stage in the plenary session tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning. I know it's early, but you should make it because this panel is going to be so wonderful.
Everyone will be there.
That's right.
Definitely not keynote speaker. But
and I'm like Ed Sullivan. I just introduce the acts, folks, and then they go and do their thing, and now we have on our show.
Set them on fire and send them on the way.
I'm really glad to be a part of this. The main stage is not a big deal.
16 years I've been waiting for this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So not taking it lightly. Definitely appreciate it. There's going to be five people on that track. Yeah, there's 5. My piece, I'm gonna talk a little bit about SpaceX. I know everybody has been talking about SpaceX. Everybody with an opinion has an opinion on that IPO, but I'm gonna come at it from a kind of a different perspective. Whatever happens next week with the biggest raise in the world, I don't care about that. Like that was, I was in the room back in 2010, maybe 11, when Gwen Shotwell for the first time said we were going to go public. And she actually said they were going to go public that year. So 15 years later is when it's actually happening. But
typical SpaceX timeline, right?
Okay, I will throw Musk under that bus, but Shotwell's got her shit together. She's really good at this. So there was I would submit it was a change of plan.
Could be worse. Could be a Tesla.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, boom, boom.
Some people are arguing that the Facebook rules that when you have 5,000 stockholders makes you de facto of a company. They were getting bumping up against that. They did some stuff to kind of like crunch that down, so support there. But I don't really care so much about the thing that's happening next week. What I really care about is what happens a few weeks later and a few months later. Because not enough people are talking about the fact that every public pension fund is going to be forced to buy SpaceX because it's going into the the index. So that's a huge.
Except for Denmark.
Okay, right, because they made that.
They
we're
made
not
that
doing
very
it.
clear.
Yep,
We are
we're
not going to
doing
buy SpaceX stock for our pension funds in Denmark. We're not going to do it.
Um,
Okay.
right, but if you're an index fund, you have to buy SpaceX as of 2 weeks afterwards or something like that. So
Also, a lot of very clever people get a lot of money, which they can then invest in other things.
right, and that's
Yeah.
the ripple effect. Like all these ripple effects, the one that I care the most about is not ripples but tsunamis. Right, when those 50,000 people that have worked for SpaceX, 25 now, 25 in the past 20 years, when those 50,000 people get their vesting, I'm told by somebody that I trust that she knows a barista who has worked at SpaceX for 10 years in their cafeteria that is going to walk out with $3 million. That's at the barista
Level. Right.
Not Gwen Shotwell, who makes $80 million a year plus whatever her bonuses are. Not all these thousands and thousands of engineers, sub-level engineers, but somebody who's been there for 10 years, half the time the company has existed, is walking away with much more than minimum wage level education and experience, is walking away with a $3 million check.
So it's like the Microsoft millionaires from 30 years ago
Right.
when they went public.
Or
Yeah.
Netscape.
Yeah. Netscape too.
Yeah.
Netscape too. NVIDIA right now.
Right.
One of the co-founders of Avialto, got into NVIDIA early, and he basically took an early retirement. So
Yeah. There is 50,000 people that know space, that know engineering, that they're about to put a lot of smart capital into this community. A lot of them are going to go buy houses, and some of them are going to go to Hawaii, right? Like, good for them, congratulations. But
will take their money in short stocks.
some of them, that's a legit question. Morningstar came out just a couple days ago. They're like, this is overpriced by twice. We think it's worth $780 billion, and it is going to market at $1.7 trillion.
The biggest revenue stream is coming from Starlink. Now, SpaceX is back to a monopoly, as you mentioned before. Starlink is not, and Starlink is vulnerable on many, many fronts, and so that's where they will. If they attack that revenue stream, that can substantially reduce the value of those shares.
I think some people are worried about the XAI thing too.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
big loser.
that's a big loser right now.
Both of those things are good points, but they're actually missing. SpaceX is saying that they're coming in with possibly 80% of the revenue is coming from the artificial intelligence sector. It is not coming from their expected future revenues. Is not coming from launch. It's coming from
Data center?
data.
Yeah.
Data center. Now,
It's a data company. It's
Morningstar,
no longer a space company. It's a data company.
It's
Yeah.
no longer
Yep.
a space company.
it's a data company.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. But it sounds like your guy from Morningstar said the same thing
Yeah.
that the retail guys were saying
Right.
on our show just 4 days ago.
Yeah.
That's the same thing, saying this is overpriced by at least half. And we wish it was cheaper. We're going to get in, but we wish it was cheaper to get in. But then there's that other guy from Fortune that said, do not get any of this under any circumstances.
Right.
Somewhere in between that and this and the huge thing everybody's wishing for, the
Right.
truth lies.
Something is going to happen. What do they call it? Excitement guaranteed.
Yep.
That's his tweet.
Yep.
He writes that all the time. Excitement guaranteed.
Or I would
So-
say hilarity ensues. But yeah.
One thing you're not talking about is the leadership factor. The person who is considered the lead, that can be an addicted racist oligarch. And
Other than that,
is not a good thing to be in a.
He's gotten called out by the SEC and his shareholders in his two public companies, right? Like,
and that was why Denmark said no.
and
They said they were going to do it because leadership was precisely the problem that they cited.
so excitement guaranteed. I don't care about that. I care about that tsunami of wealth is coming in afterwards, because that is smart capital that cares about what we're doing.
Which leads us to, I mean, let's go beyond the barista then and go to the next level, which is what we've called the SpaceX mafia.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, there are already people who have left SpaceX and had a nice payday, and they're already starting, they're already starting up companies and investing in things. There's going to be a whole lot more of them are going to pop out of the woodwork 2 weeks from now, including Gwen herself, maybe. Who knows? She'll have enough to start her own fund.
There will be family offices, and there are going to be custom built funds around this community.
Something happened this morning, by the way, in the space power and satellite session. They brought up data centers because that's an early use where you don't have to go through the atmosphere. You can do space powered send it to data centers, and SpaceX is a customer.
Okay.
So that they were looking at early MVP for space power satellite.
Now, are those shareholders you're talking about locked up for 6 months?
There is. That's why I said towards the end of the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll throw a shout out to our own Sean here. He's recently become a convert to the data center argument. Like, we have been going back and forth.
But mine's off of demand. My conversion is going to be off future demand.
You have to talk louder than that.
I said my conversion is based off the future demand for it. And it really didn't happen until after Dr. Kathari was talking about, the price difference, and he was against data centers and said they're not happening. So I've asked the question, what assumptions is that based off of? Then I realized a lot of people don't think about the future demand enough, but that didn't come and hit me until we started working with agents with Liftport. Then it dawned on me, oh my God, this thing's coming, and it's coming in a massive way, and we ain't going to have enough infrastructure, and we can't keep up. They have to go off-world. They have to go to the ocean. They have to go to where they can. And so
one of our
going to be and that money's coming, and that's really what's going to fuel this. I even wrote an article about that a year ago and predicted that this could happen.
At the end of this talk,
so,
you said invest in radiator companies.
Yeah.
Because that's not a solved problem in everybody.
Well, actually, one of our panelists tomorrow, Dan Faber, is going to be talking about that too. He's become kind of a convert, given all the other things that could be going on up there. He says that's the one with the best probability of success, because the discount rate that you get for doing it.
We had a guest, Philip from StarCloud, Philip Johnson in StarCloud, and he specifically said radiators are an unsolved problem, and if he was going to start over again, he might have done it.
Well, Shubber Lee'd be happy about this. He says, oh, somebody's finally looking at the physics, the actual physics. What do you know?
You want to bring in somebody?
Let's bring in somebody who just walked in. Kamisha, come on in. Come on in. Just sit in the hot seat right there and stare at that camera. Okay. This is
Kamisha.
She is a legal expert extraordinaire, and she's going to be presenting on our business track tomorrow. And I thought if you introduce yourself quickly and just give us a tease to what you're going to be talking about tomorrow at the business track.
Sure. So, Kamisha Simmons, I'm an attorney based in Dallas, Texas, and tomorrow I will be presenting on building empires in the sky, but particularly when we have these increased business operations offered, and you are an operator, let's say on the moon. How do you use existing law and existing frameworks to protect the territory that you're working in and the area of operations that you're working in for an indefinite period of time? Because and it's a spinoff, the presentation is a spinoff from my Building Empires in the Sky article that I published in the Space Review. That article was more about territorial expansion. This presentation is going to be more about operational. When you're operating, what are the laws and rules and principles that will allow you to continue operating in an area and hopefully not have anyone interfere in your operations while you are, mining or in structures or whatever you're doing at that particular time on that particular site.
A couple days ago, NASA came up with hey, we want to block some stuff off, and we're not going to own it, we're not going to control it, but we're going to classify it as, ask for non-interference, and we're going to run some experiments.
That'd be fine, but they're they're talking about hundreds of square kilometers is the problem.
Is it a problem?
Is it a problem?
That's okay. That's what I want to hear. Okay. Cool.
Is it a problem?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's about who gets there first, as everyone keeps saying, who gets there first. And whoever gets there first sort of establishes the rules, because then once you get there first and then somebody challenges what you're doing, then you're going to already have, had your legal arguments ready as to why you're able to do what you're doing, and it doesn't violate the Outer Space Treaty, it doesn't violate the Artemis Accords or whatever, because you've gotten there first. You've already done, your team of attorneys has already done the legal research and analysis and advised you on this is how you go in and this is what you do. And when they challenge you, this is how you're going to respond. And so until somebody gets there first and establishes operations, whether it's US, it could be China, who knows, but whoever gets there first and starts setting up shop, you're there first. And then so you can, if someone else says, well, you have to let me in here, China comes second and says, okay, you can't, take all this land. Who do you think you are? We'll give you an acre, but you're not going to get all that many acres, So if they do that, you can say, well, number one, we got here first. This is a capital intensive endeavor. And then under the Outer Space Treaty, it says that you can't harmfully interfere in our operations. Outer Space Treaty says you have to exercise due regard for our activities. But then China's going to respond and say, well, under the Outer Space Treaty, there is to be free access to all celestial bodies. And, we're all parties to the Outer Space Treaty. And then at some point, either the US or, if we get there first, is going to have to make an argument saying, and we don't know if it's going to fly, but you would have to say, well, for national security reasons or mission critical, the high level mission critical risk, we have to preclude you from coming into this area. And that's fine, but China can say, well, there's nothing that allows you to operate in this area indefinitely, right? Even under the your own Artemis Accords, it says you can create a safety zone, but that safety zone is temporary, and so it will cease once the relevant operation ceases. So even though the U.S. is saying, oh, we're going to have this moon base, we have built all these structures, how long does it last? 100 years when it says, or do China argue, okay, you can have your structures here, you can have that, but you can't keep us out. We need
free access.
We either want free access or right of way, something. You can't stop us from coming in. You can't put a fence around your perimeter and, put a no trespassing sign or something like that. Well, we can, but, how do we, from an international law perspective, keep them out?
Yeah, because that's what added in. Because first you talked about, if you be there first, you can do this and that. But since I've heard all these other words out of you, I'm going, is that really true? Does it really pay to be first and best, or is it only a 51-49 proposition?
I think it pays to be first. I think it pays to be first, but also have a team that's already done the analysis and given you a legal opinion as to whether or not what you're doing is in compliance with international law. And then if there is any gray areas in the law, that you have a team, legal team that's advising you as to this is a workaround because that area was silent, that this thing was silent under the current law or the legal principles, or this is a gray area, so it opens itself to differing interpretations. And so this is how, if you're going in, especially for the bigger companies, they have the big guns when it comes to their legal teams, and they're hiring the firms that are billing out at $2,000 an hour, and they like to bill a lot of hours putting together legal analysis memos and make a lot of money off their client. So they're going to have, given their client, an analysis of whether or not they are able to do what they're trying to do. And so they're going to have that at the ready if they're
Sure.
smart when someone, disputes what they're trying to do.
You had a question? Hi.
What's the forum where all these questions are argued about? Is it like at the UN or somewhere?
There really isn't right now a forum where that's going to handle these disputes, right? We don't have anything set up, tribunal or forum, when this activity increases over the next 5 to 10 years, especially on the moon. So if whoever gets there first, let's say you get there to the valuable where there's the water ice, and then somebody else wants to come in where you're saying, no, you can't come in, we've secured the area, we put a fence around our perimeter, you can't come in. Until that happens, unless it's from one, nation to the other nation or their citizens, then we'll see. Once that active dispute, live dispute arises, then we'll see what emerges in terms of whether they exercise diplomacy to resolve it, or they get serious about saying, for space matters at an international global level, we're going to create a tribunal or dispute resolution forum and mechanism to handle these types of issues.
And there's nothing so to be specific, the ITU manages spectrum allocation and assignments, right? So there are some organizations out there that say yes or no to some of the questions. What Kamisha is talking about, I hate to say it's the wild, wild west, but it is, and it's worse because at least at the wild, wild west, there were sheriffs roaming the territory.
There was
right?
some authority, but there are 250 years ago, King George controlled the entire East Coast. He had the legal right to tell people in these colonies what to do until those colonies declared independence. And then there was some fighting, but ultimately the King of England now acknowledges U.S. as a separate legal entity. So, that's an interesting idea. There's no real authority that they can impose their will. What happens?
Someone this morning mentioned the law of the sea. That's a couple hundred years, right? And so there's at least an analogy there. It's just that
Yeah, I pointed
Well,
straight at you.
the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, from the U.S. perspective, we signed it but never ratified it. So we have our own deep seabed, hard minerals resources act with respect to deep sea mining, meaning the mining that's in the waters outside, underneath the seabed, on the seabed. We have our own law because we never, while we were negotiating the law of the sea, we had this gap legislation, and then once they, enacted the law of the sea, we never ratified it. But anyway, for the law of the sea, they have what the U.S. doesn't currently agree on is that the benefiting. Probably why we haven't ratified is because there's this benefit sharing where they're supposed to pay certain amounts to, I guess, developing countries, and we take issue with those types of things. But they have created an authority, right, under the law of the sea, the International Seabed Authority, to govern the activities under the high seas. I don't know if that's in space.
right, because you have territorial waters and not territorial waters. But on the moon, for example, you don't have anybody claiming anything.
Well, ISA is operating outside of those territorial waters.
Yeah, it's for the law of the sea governs the high seas, which falls outside of any one nation's jurisdiction. So it's the high seas where you're out that, was it the 200 nautical miles off the coast that falls out it's no one's jurisdiction. And so that is what it's dealing with, and not within, the 200 nautical miles, which is the exclusive economic zone of that nation. So yeah, it is technically similar in the respect that it deals with a area that falls outside of any national jurisdiction, just like space does.
we're gonna talk about this more tomorrow. What time are you on tomorrow?
11 a.m.
11 a.m.
All right.
And it'll be in the Dallas room, which is right across the hall from us over here. Can't miss it. Lovely room, by the way. And so, so you will come over there and you listen to her and you'll learn something. There you
I'm
go.
actually from Victoria, Texas, but I live in
Perfect. Commissioner Simmons, thank you for coming in. Yeah, thank you. Now, counterpoint. Wes, come up here. Let's do counterpoint while we're point counterpoint. Here we go.
I don't think they're very off. Those two are not very different.
We can spend all day agreeing with each other.
I know, but you have another take on things. I'd love to hear your point of view, and I want you also. You're not, since you're not presenting tomorrow. There was no room left in my track. Yeah, I don't know. We dropped out, but I'd love you to talk about what you like to talk about, and get some interest. Everybody home is watching. There'll be other people seeing this, so yeah.
My name's Wes Ferris, the self-proclaimed owner of the 3 stars of Orion's Belt and asteroid 160346.
I wanted to show you this. I kind of think Wes is a badass. So no one at home can see my phone, but I took a picture of Orion's Belt. I'm like, my buddy owns that.
Well, I did a test claim of ownership to the 3 stars of Orion's Belt and filed it with the Knox County Recorder just to get it on paper as a party trick back in college. But then I wanted to see how far I could actually take this. Who's actually going to say no or yes? I knew that the Outer Space Treaty didn't specify anything yay or nay about private citizens, and so I ended up taking it to the tracking down the competent authority without any litigation. Posing the question. I've seen people do this wrong before by trying to sue NASA and over a claim on an asteroid to squeeze jurisdiction out of a federal court where it couldn't give it. So I found the appropriate entity within the State Department, which at that time was the Bureau of Oceans International Environmental Economic Affairs Space and Advanced Technology Division, and presented them with not to say that they're granting me or they endorse my ownership of this, but is a claim by a private citizen just that in violation of the Outer Space Treaty. I know some other treaties where it would be, like the Moon Treaty, if we were under that.
Oh my God, we'd be screwed. I think only 9 countries have signed that, and one of them was Australia way back when. I don't know if they've been trying since then to get out of it. I don't know if they can find a way to do that.
Well, it's interesting. The Moon Treaty actually was an attempt at extending the ban on nations annexing outer space directly to private citizens. I know 3 countries that were swindled into it. So India was presented sometime in the 80s, like on the day they signed the Outer Space Treaty. Like, here's a certified copy of the Outer Space Treaty. Let's give it a signatory sign to reaffirm our commitment. It was the freaking Moon Treaty.
Wow.
And so when they found out, they didn't ratify it. So they were one of the people that have signed but didn't ratify it. And I think that happened with Belgium. I know this because one of their ambassadors told me, and also Australia. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a treaty that says that's an anti-private property rights treaty, and so is its cousin, the Law of the Sea, which under basically the seafloor part extends the ban on nations claiming it, and also extends it to natural persons. I'm sorry, but I wasn't, as a natural person, I wasn't consulted. Like there should be legions of natural persons.
But stuff like this, why people can't have nice things. Yeah. It's basically what it comes down to.
Like a legal entity?
They still exist.
No, but are they a legal entity somehow internationally untouchable? Because otherwise, couldn't they get every country could?
They're a U.S. company, and the U.S. hasn't ratified
Oh,
it.
the U.S. doesn't carry it.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
So,
Well, you've got some news. You want to talk about it, or you want to talk about it until tomorrow? You're on camera now.
let's see. Well, let's see.
Apparently, his news is in a bag.
Yeah.
Well,
He needs to talk about it now.
say again, Sean.
He needs to talk about it now. We need the ratings.
Right.
All right, well, in this folder, certified copy. I don't know if you can see it here.
We'll take your word for it. It's a certified copy. Of
Certified
what
copy
from whom?
of a claim to Earth's new mini moon, PN7, issued by, I did it through my LLC, Space Rights LLC.
Right. Right.
Done it on the county, state, and federal levels, so it's archived.
Very cool.
And
Who signs off on stuff like that?
one of them is the let's see, it's the Department. It's going to be the Department of Justice. That's the federal level. This part goes to the archives, the National Archives. The other was the county clerk, recorded as a miscellaneous document. Right now, up at the State Department, I've got it going through a process called legalization for authentication for use abroad, where it's the Secretary of State's signature on it. I've been doing it I've done several of these test claims over the years, and I always make sure to do at least one per administration, or like
Right.
one per Secretary of State.
I was going to ask, how many secretaries of state have signed your documents?
7.
7.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
let that sink in for a second, right? Like, these are test claims, but these are claims that have weight, right? So what's this rocketeering for now?
It's called a mini moon. It's called it's a quasi moon. It orbits 1 to 1 with the moon.
And this goes back to, your original was, let's pick stars that are light years away.
Right.
And then little by little by little by little get closer and closer.
and closer
Right?
to Earth.
So,
This,
yeah.
This one might have some pushback from everybody from the private sector.
Do you think it's going to get some pushback?
Probably.
Go ahead. Yeah.
What would happen if, for example, Astroforce tried to mine your mini moon?
I would first say that there's plenty of space for all of us.
And then I would sue them in every court in the land.
Right? Like Astroforge is a company that could actually go out and tackle something. So what if they did?
I guess it would come. You would have the choice to either say there's a problem under the Outer Space Treaty, because it all falls back on nations, and just say it's the nation's fault. But I would aim for this is just a general blanket property rights claim, and for mineral rights. So I'm trying to do this without litigation.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what if they argue that you never physically possessed? They physically possessed it because they got there. You never physically possessed it.
So possession's 9/10 of the law, but then there's that other 1/10.
Or 9 years to life, depending on what you're possessing.
I would say the one that achieves both, but there is a mission plan. It's not just going to be a paper claim. So if they, there's a planned mission to where that I'm part of, to where
Well,
the goal is to land there first.
well, then on that example, though, let me ask you talk about, somebody else got there, but you made the claim. Did you pay some money to put in these claim forms? You have some skin in the game.
Well, yeah, there's standard.
Okay.
It's standard government.
So, but technically, you have skin in the game. So, for example, when I bought my house in Florida, we closed on April 7th of 2020 because of all the COVID issues. I couldn't actually get a flight down there. My flights kept getting canceled. So I said, hell with it, I just drove. I didn't actually take possession physically of the house until May 15th. Did I or did I not own that house for that intervening 5 weeks?
No,
I'm asking.
You owned it, but there was a chain of title. There was recording of deeds, however long that property had been there, and homes had been there. And so it wasn't the Wild Wild West where it was the New World.
Right.
Now you're in England or Portugal, whoever you are, and you're saying, I'm going to stake a claim to 10 acres in the New World before you got to the New World.
Mm-hmm.
But then somebody that came over here on the boat and then got here and actually built something there. So then you're saying, you're still in Europe and you're saying, oh, I have the paperwork for that, but then when you arrive in the US, somebody already built homes, barns, whatever on your land, got some horses and some cows, and then you're saying, you're saying,
Yeah.
get off our land.
Those,
Well, they said,
those,
I've been here, how long, how do
yeah,
you know?
right. Those darn squatters, right?
Right, like I own North America.
And so that, you're one of those.
Yeah, there's gonna be competing claims as we get closer and closer. But there's no international court for settlement of those yet. I mean, there is, but we haven't.
No, it's going, no.
If it was, the US wouldn't join.
Just like one of the private entities.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist yet, so that's a problem that hasn't come up yet, and I don't have the answer to that.
Is anything about the body recording just the physical object itself, or is there anything that's also tied to the orbit that it's in? Because I could also imagine in a not quite mining scenario where somebody like Transastra comes up and collects the body as a whole and transports it somewhere else, right? And so it's like
Put it into the lower hull of the Enterprise, and fly away with it.
Yeah, no, transaction just came up with a bag, yeah.
So it's like, what about the body, or what about the documentation correlates that body?
Okay, so I've got it down to NPC designation, minor planet category discovery. That's the classification. There's three parts: classification, physical parameters, and orbital elements. The physical parameters, that absolute magnitude and estimated diameter, which is about 19,240 meters. We don't know yet. Then the orbital elements, which is the semi-major axis, eccentricity, inclination, perihelion, aphelion, orbital period, mean motion, ascending node, mean anomaly, and Earth, and mean distance. So this covers the orbital, like this covers most of the.
So that's the uniquely identified.
Yeah, this is the identifier. Yeah. This.
How far is it? It's 11, 12, 13 million miles, something like that. Something like that. It's an average.
Yeah.
And it's a transient rock. It's gonna move out of Earth's influence in about 70, 80 years, something like that. So
At that point, it would no longer be a quasi moon.
Right.
It would be classified as something else.
It's an RV. You can keep owning it.
all right. Want to move on?
Yeah.
Got
Okay.
anything else?
No,
Okay.
He's got a white paper. He's got a white paper that working on.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Working on
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, man. Hey, I see Jim Plaxco back there.
I'm hiding back.
Stop hiding. Get your ass up here. Sit in the hot seat. I get it.
There's that award-winning personality, Tom. That's how you get
Yes.
friends.
Oh, he'll be back. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
So tell our viewers who you are and what you're going to be talking about here.
Sure. I'm Jim Plaxco. In addition to being the subject matter expert for economics for the National Space Society Space Ambassadors Program, I have to take a breath now.
Yeah.
I'm also president of the Chicago Society for Space Studies, which I imagine is why you have me on the business track, because I'm going to be talking about a space station design cost simulator, another mouthful, that we just released on our website.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't think the world has enough space station simulators. I mean, I really don't, because that's an area I really am excited.
Yeah, see, well, for me, I was limited in terms of my choices because I was looking for a way to make our website more engaging, particularly to a younger audience, especially students. And I wanted to come up with a way of getting people to think about the whole process of decision analysis, particularly techno-economic analysis and financial analysis. And given my interest in commercial space stations, which I view the success of as being crucial to continued economic development of cislunar space, I thought building a space station design cost simulator would serve all of those purposes, and, particularly since the students, the audience, they're learning about decision analysis, but they're doing it within the framework of thinking about a commercial space station and its capabilities. So I saw it as being a really nice way of getting people to learn about one thing while thinking about something else that they might view as being more fun. So,
Okay.
yeah, well, see, for me, it was
Money.
That's why we're here.
Were you a part of the NSS that they had a couple days ago about focus?
I wasn't party to it, but I was aware of what was going on. And this is, I don't know how familiar your audience is with it, but a while back, NASA announced a slight redesign of the commercial LEO destinations program, which basically threw everybody except I would say Axios under the bus because they were going for, hey, we want somebody who will attach a module to ISS. And the whole point of the commercial LEO destination program was to come up with independent space station successors to ISS. So I know there was a fair amount of pushback on that decision to alter the program in that way. And in light of the pushback that NASA received from various organizations and individuals about that decision has now been rescinded. So we're back to actually doing a better job of moving the prospects for commercial space stations forward.
I don't think it was ever an official decision, but they were pushing the idea pretty hard and wanting people to buy into it. And when they didn't get any buy into it, they backed off.
Thank you, Cliff. Yeah.
Where can people find that simulator?
If they go to chicagospace.org, they can find it there. Of course, they'll find it from the homepage because they'll have to go to the user guide first in order to get access to the simulator. And I do suggest at least quickly scanning the user guide, even though it's long. And that was a real challenge for me, was designing a program that it lay somewhere between a spherical cow and Bonini's paradox, which is meaning too simple to be useful.
Right.
Bonini's paradox being a model that's so complex that you lose your ability to understand what you're modeling. And thinking about it from a novice perspective, if you're wanting students and the general public to be able to use it and understand it, you have to have a few enough set of input parameters that they have to specify, and not all that many output values that they have to then understand and go back and modify based on the inputs, which means that I'm making a number of hard-coded assumptions within the framework, which is also driven by the fact that the hosting service we're using as a platform to deliver the app has restrictions on memory, CPU, bandwidth, and then you also have to be concerned about the lag time for how long does all of this take to recalculate. And the more recalculations you're doing with each iteration, the more time someone might have to sit there twiddling their thumbs waiting for an update. And right now it's pretty near instantaneous. So
I put the link up on the chat.
so we can pass it out to our audience. By the way, I want to do a quick shout out to our audience.
I brought it up myself, so I guess, I forgot to look at that to see who's here. And our people here today, Luis Andre Reyes, one of our new fans, is with us today, and welcome, sir. Jason Todd Sprecher, one of our, we love that guy, and he's here today listening to us live. So that's
appreciate y'all, and especially because it's a different time than normal. So y'all actually had to set your alarms to come in. So really appreciate y'all. Appreciate it.
They're skipping work. They're skipping work.
All right. Anything else yet?
Go space.
Go space.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks so much, sir.
Thank you. Good talk skill, folks.
Aiden, what you got?
Question for Jim.
Yeah.
Is it more of like a sim scheme, or is it more of just enter a number and you get some sort of?
There's about 20 input parameters that you can specify, and then there's a lot more parameters that or values that come out of that. And the emphasis is on coming up with a design that can make a profit.
Yeah.
Because that is the ultimate in terms of, you want to have a sustainable business, you have to get out more money from the business than you put into the business.
Shock.
Yeah,
It's shocking.
Not involving underpants.
Right.
Profit.
Shout out to Aiden, by the way. He just got accepted to a PhD program. It's
Few days ago.
full ride.
Yeah.
I interviewed Tuesday, they told me I'm in, I'll receive more documentation in a month, but I started the fall.
Yes, excellent.
Good job. Good
And
job.
he's going after control. So the other side of space stations.
Yep.
So
There we go.
Congrats, buddy.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. And look who just came in. Another tall friend of mine, Dan Fabridge. Mind coming up?
Hey, Tom.
Uh-oh. Well, he's part of our thing tomorrow. How you doing, young man? Oh, good. Sit in the hot seat. Yep. Tell folks who you are and what you're going to be doing here. Give us a tease for,
Thanks. G'day, Daniel Faber, engineer, serial entrepreneur, general, no gooder, trying to break / fix the space industry.
Okay. But you are recently from Orbit Fab, obviously, and you spent some months in the wilderness now. You're probably in a sweat lodge in Mexico someplace. And so what visions did you have while you were there?
Well, still on the board of Orbit Fab.
Okay.
So still involved to some extent, but stepping back. So it's given me a chance to work on some of the other things. You probably know. 25 years ago, I decided we should get humans off this rock. This would be the most important thing and interesting thing to work on. But I put together a list of industries that might pay for those first permanent jobs in space.
Yeah.
Space-based solar power didn't math back then. Couldn't see myself as a tour operator, and the only other thing on my list was mining. So I've been chipping away at that for 25 years. So we had deep space industries, probably wearing a shirt today. We built thrusters that could run off material you could get out of an asteroid, realizing the first thing you'll probably sell is that material turned into fuel. At Orbit Fab, we were building the interfaces and then the whole service for delivering fuel on orbit. So the next logical step is to work on the chemical processing. So at that point, you've got the thrusters that can use the fuel, the market for the fuel, processing of the fuel, and all you need to do is shove an asteroid in the top end of that, and it can be actually economically used. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. But then people are trying to distract me by direct-to-device communications plays. I had an in-space entertainment play, which is one of the other things I added to that list of industries that might pay for the first permanent job in space. Someone's actually interested in buying those assets off me. So it's been an interesting journey, and it's slowly narrowing down to exactly what I'm going to do next. It's down to sort of two options, really.
All right. So will we hear an announcement tomorrow at the panel?
You'll have to wait till tomorrow to find out.
That's what I want. That's the tease. That's what we're doing here, folks. I want you to see this panel tomorrow morning. I know it's early in the morning, but do it. Just do it. Because we got guys like Michael and Dan here, Lisa Labonte showing up, Fahad Al Hussein from Saudi Arabia is showing up, and someone I can't pronounce, Jude, a guy named Jude from Africa. And it's going to be, we've got 4 continents represented on stage tomorrow. We're going to talk about the future of space and space investing and the cislunar economy and anything else we can come up with that's wild and crazy and fun.
I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
I was over at the space-based solar pack conference this morning,
Uh-huh.
and I put together a list of all the companies that are working on different business models and go-to-market strategies. There are dozens of companies
Wow.
working on space-based solar power or things that use massive amounts of power in space.
Mhm.
Blew me away.
Yeah.
Just like completely different environment from even a few years ago.
Last year, it was a different environment last year. Yeah, it is wild how many are coming online and really credible teams with actual capital trying to build really real systems. It's remarkable.
Well, I think also that's a product of the money, the sheer volume of money that's coming into this sector now. It's like,
also a product of the mistaken belief that SpaceX is going to drop launch prices.
actually, no, it isn't. I don't agree. I don't agree because for the last year or so, we've been keeping track of this. Like almost every week, every show, we're talking about companies that have gotten 5 million here or 10 million there or 40 million here or 500 million over there. And we just keep adding it up. It's several billion a year long before we started talking about a SpaceX IPO. And so you ask, are you going to get a halo effect this year because of the SpaceX IPO? Damn right you are. And
Seeing it in the stock market.
we are.
I
Yes,
am quite desperate
that's
to
true.
take space companies public right now. If anyone's got a company that might even be worth taking public in 12 months, they'll take it public for you tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, Firefly's going, they're doing an IPO.
Something else. Wait a second. Shush. Is it a SPAC or something
All
else?
the above. Reverse
Really?
takeover
Okay.
vehicles,
Yeah.
SPACs, IPOs. Like there are people desperate to get exposure and to help bring that exposure to the stock
Crazy.
market.
That's kind of new information.
It
It's
is.
vaguely important.
Vaguely
Yeah.
important, yes.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about that on the panel tomorrow.
Do that. Yeah,
That's
see
what
another. All you folks at home, sorry you can't make it.
That's okay. Yeah, we're shutting it down now, but I am just a humble moderator. So thank you, my friend. See you tomorrow.
Hey.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody.
No, it's not. That's all counts. Introduce yourself. Hi. Thanks for being here.
So to the folks at the room and to folks here with us at the conference, I'm Dr. Joseph Meany, president of the Interstellar Research Group. I'm a little bit of a new entrant into the space industry as far as being involved professionally is concerned. My background is in chemistry and material science. So I did all of my education focused on specifically chemical reactions, things of that nature. And as Michael and I were talking about before we went live here today, I got started on molecular scale electronics. So I focused on just the really, really small stuff. And the big fun of my dissertation was making a diode just out of a single molecule that was 1 nanometer long. It was pretty exciting the day I got that data back. But I'd always harbored like a fascination for space. I was always the one with the Time and the Life magazines and whatever. And my parents, they never sent me to space camp, but that free commercial VHS tape that I got by calling the toll-free number, I wore that thing out. I absolutely wore that thing out. But when I proved bad enough at physics that I knew that I wasn't going to cut it as a mech engineer, I kind of wrote off space as a bit of a dream. But then it was in graduate school. I was invited to give a talk at a place called DragonCon. Any DragonCon?
Oh, yeah.
I'll be going Labor Day.
Excellent.
Yep.
So I gave a talk on, the applications of nanotechnology for space because the interest continued to harbor. And after the talk, one of the attendees came up to me and she's like, "You are going to have to meet my husband. He wasn't able to be here for this, but his name's Les. You would really like him. He's the chief technologist of
Les
NASA."
Johnson.
Les Johnson.
awesome. Well, that explains your interstellar too.
Exactly. Exactly. So it was from there that I got invited to this group in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and this event called the Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop. And from there, I was sitting around in the room with like a bunch of propulsion engineers and a bunch of like habitat scientists and things of that nature. And I was listening to all the talks going on, and I was like, they're talking about moving a lot of stuff around. There's a lot of stuff in space. And I know a lot of stuff about stuff. So I actually have something to bring to this conversation. So fast forward 10 years, the Tennessee Valley Interstellar Workshop rebranded itself. It went international. It's now the Interstellar Research Group. And so I'll be presenting actually tomorrow on the interstellar track because of my professional expertise in carbon-based nanomaterials. I'll be presenting a review of carbon allotropes and its use as photonic sampling materials. So I get to talk all about the new stuff that's come out with graphene and carbon nanotubes, and if you make these sort of lightweight composites, what new types of missions kind of open up that were impossible if you're focusing on the breakthrough starshot laser type propulsions. So we're going to have a pretty robust discussion of that, which I'm really excited about.
Well, for someone who's concerned about math, not that long ago, you've done pretty well here. You got the chemistry and the physics down, clearly. So yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
Electronics was my worst class in college, but then I go on to invent the tiniest diode. It's like, all right, well, I guess the things that I find really hard are just the ones that are truly motivating.
Yeah, I get it. The one programming class I took in college, I just was miserable at it. This woman, just German woman, says, "It's obvious, nothing about Fortran." Well, years later, I ended up with a 31-year career in IT. So, and now I moved into telecom. But yeah, I get it. Sometimes what you study doesn't always work out, but you always find something where you find some passion in.
Yeah, it keeps you involved, and I do IRG stuff as a hobby. Like that's it's all unpaid, it's all volunteer work. But I think we're doing pretty well for ourselves. We're going to have our second European conference, the second European Interstellar Symposium in Venice, Italy, later on this year. Teamed up with the University of Padua for that, which is really exciting. In the IAA. And then we teamed up with Georgia Tech for the 10th Interstellar Symposium that's going to be in Georgia in 2027. So lots of exciting stuff going on. And, we're talking about not just space or habitat or propulsion, but it's, bringing in how does economics evolve over long term? How does language evolve, cultural evolution? These all sorts of things have to play into ultimate mission design, because you can't just slap a bunch of people inside an O'Neill cylinder and say, hey, good luck, and expect them to arrive safely at Alpha Centauri.
I know a few I'd like to put in there. So, I mean, can we keep that option open?
Maybe for the
breathing or not?
Well,
I love talking to interstellar people because usually I'm the craziest guy in the room, and then I get to your room and they're like, "Let me tell you crazy." So I love it. I seriously, legit question: are you aiming for warp drives, or you said solar sails, or life ships? If you were to pick one of those three, where would you? How do you think we're going to get to another star?
Yeah, so I do like the idea of world ships or, habitats, things of that nature. My concern for that is the energy budget that has to bridge you the gap, because your ship is going to be radiating energy all of the time in all directions that you're going to be driving through. And so it's like do you load it up with the mass and energy budget that you're expecting to have to survive a 200, 300, 500 millennium long journey? We don't have the energy storage devices for that. And the amount of uranium or fissile material that you'd have to rely on is extremely large. Now, is there a possible amount of helium-3 or fusionable material in the interstellar medium? We don't know enough about the interstellar medium to actually say yet. And that's where some really interesting rapid missions to the heliopause would actually be quite useful. And René Heller out of Germany, he put together a mission concept that got carbon foam sailcraft out to the heliopause in 4 years. And so the work that's going to essentially come from my talk here today is going to sort of develop into new concept development, because he limited his sailcraft to 0.6 AU. I think we can drive it closer to about 0.01 and really push the limitations of the thermal capacity of the carbon foams to get that acceleration. And notionally, a lot of these mission limitations stay further away from the sun because they want to avoid sailcraft ablation. But where I'm headed is I actually want to take a lot more advantage of that.
Okay.
So, I'm just basically presenting the pitch to work together with, other people in that space to come up with some new ideas.
It's interesting. You're mentioning interstellar propulsion. You're mentioning Dragonkind in particular. By chance, this is weird. By chance, do you know a guy named Greg Hodgin? Lives in the Atlanta area?
No.
Okay. Okay. I was just curious. He goes to Dragonkind a lot too, but he presents sometimes. But he's put a group together. It's called the ZC Institute. It stands for Zero Carbon. They're working on alternative energy.
Oh,
and they're doing he's doing something called a quantum hack to kind of get a pseudo fusion, out of this machine. But he says the other side of that, doing that, I convinced him this is what he needs to do to make money. But the other side of it, tweaked a different way, we might be able to get a workable warp drive out of it.
Yeah.
But I don't let him talk about that, because all funding will dry up tomorrow. But making a small fusion-like reactor that's only like this big, it'll fit in your car. That's something that maybe it's possible. I don't know.
Yeah, I leave the warp drive stuff to a lot more of the mathematicians in the community. I say, hey, good on ya. I'm a material scientist. If I can't mix it up in a beaker, I'm kind of lost. But there are some.
I just wondered in your circles if you guys had crossed paths. That would have been an interesting meeting of the minds.
Yeah, no, unfortunately we haven't. John Bradford out of SpaceWorks Enterprises, like we know him. And Brad Cheatham out of Advanced Space.
I know Brad very well.
Yeah, so we've met a couple of times before, and Bart, one of Brad's writers, actually is on our advisory committee. So we've got our fingers in a lot of different areas because essentially these problems are big enough that you have to bring together the communities that are going to point out, hey, if you try this thing, it has knock-on effects over here. So we want to make sure that people are talking to minimize a lot of those knock-on effects. Yeah.
Tanner, did you have a question?
Yeah, so Joe, I don't often get to harass somebody who's got deep carbon nanomaterial type experience whilst they're sitting next to a space elevator guy.
Yeah. So I know that a lot of the issues have come from defect engineering is the big limitation, right? Like, yes, you have the tensile strength and the carbon nanomaterials and things of that nature.
But where the limitation really comes from is carbon nanotubes sitting next to one another don't interact strongly. The van der Waals forces are actually very weak, so there's a lot of slipping motion that goes on. I am really interested in some of the high pressure work that's going on right now to actually make the synthetic Lonsdaleite, because, and for any of you that aren't familiar with your carbon allotropes, so there are the graphene type sp2 allotropes. It's graphene, carbon nanotubes, buckyballs, all that. And then you've got the sp3 type allotropes, of which diamond is the most famous. But essentially, there is an allotrope called Lonsdaleite that we really only find in nature in meteor impacts. But people are working on creating it synthetically in the lab, and they're creating it synthetically in the lab by taking two planes of graphene and then subjecting them to immense pressure so that those two platelets cross-link into its own new synthetic diamond-esque type form. And that's going to give you the rigidity and structure that I think has the opportunity to, where you start with tensile strength in one direction that's benefited on the carbon nanotubes, but then if you got them to cross-link in 3 dimensions in a way that nanotube yarns, nanofiber yarns won't be as strong, gives us some hope. But that's, you know, the manufacture of even those initial samples is still, like, people are claiming that they've made it, and then the peer review community gets all up in arms. So it's not been in fact made even at the lab scale and confirmed yet.
So only a few stages away from the diamond age.
Yeah. But I think that opens up a lot of the opportunities when you, because thinking from an analogy, right? Thinking from the plastics perspective, you have a hard plastic that exists when you introduce the cross-linking bonds that make sure that the chains also no longer slip past one another. That's how and why thermosets work, right? And so making this new type of allotrope out of the other fundamental carbon allotropes isn't so simple as just giving a little bit of heat. It takes a little bit of new types of chemistry and conditions. But that's where I think the innovation direction lies.
Cool. This thing where you cross-link graphene planes, it wouldn't really be sp2, but it's definitely not sp3 either. So what would you call it?
Oh, it is sp3 because the electrons then become localized when you have the molecular between the planes.
So it'd be like a diamond sheet.
Yeah, and so whereas diamond is an sp3 cubic form, it still maintains an offset chair hexagonal structure.
I'm picking up everything down.
Yeah.
Daniel, to your point about, space elevator guy, I stopped being, I became an apostate to that cult. I do totally commit to their chemistry, their engineering, their plan. The physics of it still totally work. It's when it hits the real world, I definitely have some questions about. But my experience that is now 20 years outdated was everybody was always talking about it's the strength problem, right? Everybody was like totally hyper focused on making a strong string, which is great, but it was 6 problems then, and it probably is still 6 problems: length, strength, alignment chirality, how the nano level twists is really important. Length, strength, alignment, chirality, functionalization, like you were just describing, and mass production. And if you don't solve all 6 of those, you're still in wish land. So that's that. I left that a long time ago because I don't see how they solve that problem in a reasonable time. And 20 years later, and the billions of dollars invested in those 6 problems still haven't gotten the answer that we need for that element. But
Yeah.
a lunar elevator is buildable now with current technology. I'm just gonna slide that in.
And we've gotten ridiculously good at growing well-aligned forests of short nanotubes. That's how, all of the Vantas have come about, right? But I still think the length limitation, although you were talking about the new Korean limit.
Koreans, I just got surprised by that.
Yeah. So, before I walked in the room this afternoon, I was still under the impression of millimeter scale, centimeter scale carbon nanotubes. But
Pete Swan just 2 hours ago told me about a Korean group that is making mass producible sheets of it that are kilometer long and he said 20 to 30 centimeters wide. So sheets of, but that's basically taking nanotubes and dropping them into plastics. Like it is not.
It's not single molecule.
No.
Okay.
So I don't know what their process is. I'm disconnected from that.
Still sounds interesting.
It is interesting, right? Of anything, any wool is interesting. So yeah, it is. There's some stuff. So I'm gonna check in with.
Yep.
So they've actually run that kilometer of material out. They've actually produced it.
That is what Swan told me 2 hours ago. So I'm gonna ask more questions.
Elevators again tomorrow.
Nope. my days with that are over. I have walked into that wall enough.
Okay, Joseph, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got a couple people going in. Jude, is that you? Yes. I knew you from your picture. We've never met before. Can you come up, please? Yeah, he's one of our panelists for the plenary session tomorrow. I just sit right there.
So we're talking to the internet, but we're also talking to the room. All right.
Okay. Yep. So tell them who you are, what you do, where you're from, and what we're going to be doing.
Most people call me Jude, so Jude is just fine. And I'm from Cameroon. I live in DC right now. I've worked in various international companies, gotten a few degrees, and from DC now I work with my associates on developing investment projects in Africa, where we focus on aligning development. I've actually come up with an equation for it. So development, which we define as infrastructure, aligned with natural resources, specifically energy and technology. And from that alignment comes explosive growth. And why it's relevant to this conversation right now is Africa is going to space.
Yeah. Yes.
Africa is going to space. It's come up as a big surprise to everyone because no one thought to associate the two. Wrongly so. So I'm not going to get into a whole dissertation about how astronomy was invented in Africa, because the oldest megalithic structures that we have on Earth, several thousand years older than the one in Britain, what's it called? Than Stonehenge, are actually in the African Sahara. So we can talk more about that yesterday. So it's a very old tradition that Africans are reviving now and using it in ways that are absolutely innovative for development, which has all sorts of consequences in terms of their own transformation, and also strategic consequences about how the whole lower Earth economy and is going to develop. We can talk. I hope we can talk about the implications that has for Elon Musk, which are interesting. Because Africa may actually beat Elon to having a million satellites. This is just if you look at the mathematic progression of the number of satellites that have been launched by Africans. So both in terms of the how, the why, and the ambition that has been rolled out by different African countries at the state level, but also increasingly at the private sector level, and the alliances and the connections that are made worldwide. It's Africa is a rising force whose impact will be felt even more going forward.
I've been saying for quite a while that development of the African Space Agency rivals and could in fact eclipse the European Space Agency.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I know that sounds like a wild claim, but
it's gone faster.
It's
more organic.
More nations and larger budgets, arguably. Not yet, but soon. Yeah.
Plus, we already have at least 2 African launches project. One in Somalia, which is the collaboration between Turkey and Somalia, and another one that's, I think, from last year between Djibouti and a private company from Hong Kong. They're setting up a launcher. There are others coming. I hope in my country, Cameroon, and probably in the countries of the Sahel. Also, I would bet somewhere in Southern Africa. It'll be either Namibia, because Namibia seems to be the best candidate, because they're one country that is putting a strong emphasis on those technologies, lower Earth orbit, but also the wider data economy, because that's what Africa is doing, basically, with space. Africa is using space to build the digital economy, the big data economy. And that big data economy combined with Africa's needs and Africa's resources is going to create that explosive growth. So, and well, these days that also leads you into questions of geopolitics, because obviously that alignment aligns with questions of sovereignty, but also technology, because Africans are using their own specific technologies. I'm lucky enough to be working with some of those companies, and one of the countries to watch in particular in that regard is South Africa. There's some great innovative local technologies that are developed. Actually, it's repurposing often of technologies that are already in use, like radio. Our partners in South Africa are using radio technologies in ways for the space sector in ways that others hadn't, and so useful that even the U.S. Navy is interested in it. So we're actually partnering with them because it presents more efficient and cheaper solutions. So that's one example. There's Kenya, and in terms of the ambition, there's Rwanda, which is a country that has made technology the cornerstone of its approach, which they're already doing in mobile technologies and in all sorts of ways. But interestingly, they've reserved space routes for satellites in the hundreds of thousands.
Wow.
They've reserved them. So this is and they've already launched, I think, 2 satellites, most nano satellites. I think most of there's about 160 plus satellites that have been launched from Africa. Most of them are nano satellites. But in the case of Rwanda, clearly they have a vision of hundreds of thousands, if not a million satellites, organizing and channeling Africa's data.
Okay.
Those different places.
Will the system absorb 1 million satellites without turning into 1 billion pieces of space junk?
That is a great question. Elon seems to think. He doesn't see a problem with it. So
Oh, well, say no more. If Elon thinks it, well, by God, it's got to work.
So if Elon Musk thinks he's okay, I think I'm fine.
Oh, God. It's sounding like a Monty Python sketch now. You know, I mean, okay. All right.
So it's so actually it'll be interesting because actually you're already starting to see a level of competition between the business models rolled out by Elon Musk, which has to be given their due in terms of their productivity, their innovation, whatever else you think about the man's politics or what type of businessman you have, you cannot contest what he's been able to do.
And as I said earlier in the show, you know, he's a guy who he sees an opportunity and he takes it.
Absolutely.
And so if Blue Origin is going to give him an opportunity by blowing up on the pad, well, okay, he's going to take it.
Interestingly, what he's meeting in Africa is he's meeting rising local ecosystems and increasingly integrated through outfits like the African Space Agency that have their own ideas about how to seize those opportunities and how to organize them.
Mhm.
So that's what's happening to him with Starlink. That is going to happen to him with SpaceX as well, because you will have African launchers who will compete with SpaceX and have their own ideas about exactly what type of satellite constellations should be out there. Why should Elon be the one to have 1 million satellites?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, etc. So that's sort of the node. Well, let's hope it's a productive level.
And this is only the tease for what he's going to be talking about tomorrow. This is just, this is, the tip of the iceberg of this man, obviously.
Because I'm a 46-year-old geek. So when
Michael, do you think this is going to be just an amazingly fun panel tomorrow? Oh my God. It's just going to be great.
So I've written about this. I had to stop myself from writing more about this, and I feel extremely grateful that I get to work with the people involved, and I'm very excited to be able to share that with you guys here today, and with you guys over there too.
Exciting.
And the folks at home. Yes.
And the folks at home.
If you don't know, it's Daniel and I and you, and then
There's two other people.
Yeah.
Lisa Levante, and
Yes,
and Farhad Hussein. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Pleasure, man. Absolutely. Oh God.
We got about half an hour left. What do you got?
We're happy to do an open mic, whatever topics thrill you. Okay.
And what do you got?
Oh, I just hoping to introduce myself. If that's okay.
Yeah, come on up.
Please come on.
Hello, my name's Andrew Olson. I'm an aspiring aerospace engineer. Right now, somebody mentioned nanosats. I'm actually working on one through my university where we're monitoring radiation decay of a graphics processing unit. So graphics processing unit decays over time with radiation, just regular wear and tear. We're analyzing that. Shout out to the University of Buffalo Nanosat Laboratory, where I'm the GNC lead and the assistant chief engineer. Yeah, and as Michael said before, I'll be starting my doctorate in the fall, and I finished my undergrad last December. So looking forward to that. But I guess the general question I had for everyone is, I've heard so much about space-based data centers. What about the radiation? That's going to be a significant issue. Do we really know how much shielding we're going to need, especially for especially for lunar orbits or even beyond?
Yeah, so my company actually addresses that. We do radiation effect simulation for deep space.
What do you use? Like, do you use ANSYS SDK or something else?
So we use GAMP with special modifications. So we're an MIT-based startup. So we take the CERN, Fermi, and MIT particle models and enhance the GAMP4, and then we created a digital twin AI interface.
I see. And have you done it? Is it like low enough where the South Atlantic anomaly would be a factor to consider?
Well, state that again.
The South Atlantic anomaly. It's a weaker point in the magnetic field where you
Oh.
kind of more radiation.
We do our analysis outside of LEO.
I
So
see.
we're looking at all the higher altitudes and orbits. We've characterized missions out to Neptune with an inner solar system swing out. Different materials, whether it's solar sails, advanced propulsion systems, new deep space radio communications. So by doing it digitally, we can have the full particle spectrum involved. We can set it at various locations. We can make modifications while you're in the design phase. So we do recommendations about optimize shielding and also component placement. So you can reduce your weight because you have to take the components anyway. And some are disposable on your way to space. So you use them as shields after you get to space. So there's a lot of different configurations by doing it with the digital twin. that creates efficiencies. And so by the time you're ready for CDR, everyone's signing off. And the DoD's been a lot lax on radiation effects certificates. They're starting to ramp that up again. So that's where the digital capability, because there's such a backlog on the physical testing side.
Sorry to interrupt. You said SDR?
The CDR, the critical design review,
I see.
before you get racked back and stacked.
I see. Yeah, my lab where I can go to SDR this fall, where I'll be talking about the pointing budget for 200 of those.
Yeah.
Basically, orbit selection, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you
So-
part of the University Nanosatellite program? Is that something you operate under, or you operate?
No. We spun out sort of CSAIL, small and Aero Astro.
I see.
So a hybrid.
What's your name, by the way?
Blair DeWitt.
Ian. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you. The reason physical radiation testing is problematic is because the workforce is retiring and dying. The national labs haven't had improvements, so there's a backlog of 18 months.
There was a paper I read during some of our orbit selection. I don't remember the other office, what the short sounds are. And they tried to do an experiment with ISO, where from my understanding, they had a GPU separate from the rest of the computer, and they radiated the GPU, but this was over a short period of time, when they were analyzing their radiation, and they didn't see corrupted data.
Yeah.
But again, now short term, and from what I could see, it did cost a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, another aspect though of that is if you think about data centers, there's a lot of emphasis on running the latest and greatest chipsets. And they have a fairly short life cycle before they're replaced by the next generation. And I'm just wondering how that is going to translate into being able to keep a space-based data center current versus how quickly will it fall out of favor because the next generation of chips has made that set obsolete. So it's not, because the radiation hardening, yeah, the chips tend to lag in terms of the generation that they're at. But let's say you don't need to do any hardening at all, just suppose. You then face the challenge of how are you going to replace all those obsolete chips in your data center that's in space? And what does that do to your cost structure and the actual effectiveness? Or do they just become also rans?
Perhaps it's in a different direction. Perhaps it's a potential solution. What about just setting them up on the moon eventually? Just landing, let's say, something on the moon, and use the moon as an orbital data and set up orbital data centers on the moon.
That might make sense if you're able to effectively locate chip production facilities on the moon. Because right now you're talking about what, $10,000 a kilogram optimistically to get something to LEO. The cost of landing something on the surface of the moon is going to be significantly higher for the foreseeable future. So I don't know how effective it, from a cost standpoint, I don't know how effective that would be to deliver your finished chips from Earth to the moon. Although I have to say, optimally, we do want to be able to build things on the moon. And so from that perspective, that might make sense. In fact, one of the presentations earlier today was about using mass drivers to launch data centers off the surface of the moon to get them, into Earth orbit from the moon.
Is that by close one?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's one of the slides.
Not related, but one of the slides. All right,
But
thanks a
there's
lot.
an opportunity to leverage best practices from IT industry. So tape was hot stuff, then it went to spindle, then it went to chips. They never lost tape. You just allocate different data sets to different mediums. So as your data center starts aging, it's destined for tier 2, tier 3 processing opposed to your tier 1. Your tier 1 will always maintain the hottest stuff, but you never lose your footprint.
Yeah.
It just, the quality or the price you charge for processing in tier one stays the same, but now you have more options as those data centers stay persistent.
Jim, there's been talk for a long time about building solar panels from using lunar resources as a precursor for space-based solar power. I don't know jack about that technology. I'm not going to pretend that I do. But somebody was also saying, well, if you can build solar panels, how much farther is it to build your own chips? So the idea of building chips out of lunar resources is not very far away from building solar panels off of lunar resources. I'm not saying they're good chips, bad chips. I've got no skin in that game, but it is a pretty interesting idea that's not too much science fiction, as I understand.
Yeah, that was an interesting history of conceptual development from Peter Glazier saying we build our solar panels, launch them into orbit, to O'Neill saying, hey, we've got the resources of the moon, we can use the resources of the moon to build the panels at an orbital factory and then deploy them in space. And then that one on to David Criswell, who said, well, as long as you've got all you're mining the moon, why not just build your solar power satellite on the surface of the moon? Just lay it out on the moon, feed the power to a trio of relay stations in Earth orbit. And that way your workers have much more protection because they're not working at a factory that's in orbit, they're working at a factory on the surface of the moon.
And I know that there are people working on the numbers in a much more serious way than I have up to this point, but you essentially have three key benefits of using lunar regolith or in space silicon sources for making chips. It's that you can make the chips wider so that your ultimate wafer has a larger cross section, which increases your chip density by the square of the radius, right? So that's a benefit. You've got the opportunity to create longer ingots because you're no longer worried about the ingot itself just kind of falling apart. So that means your overall wafer yield can go up. And then the other benefit is that because you can control your temperature environment much more carefully, you have a greater chance of actually also having a better yield of just the general single crystalline form at the same time. Now, the big risk that comes in with a lot of this is actually, does the cosmic radiation come in and cause disjunction within your crystal lattice? And I don't know that that's particularly well known at the moment, but is one area to keep an eye out. What about static electricity? If it's difficult to fight here, if you're on the surface of the moon, it's insane. Mm-hmm. So you need, and there's some good research on polymers that create an anti-static because it's a problem right now for solar panels that operate on the surface of the moon being tracked right away and dust. So they're trying to figure out how you shed that. Do you shed it electromagnetically? Is it a polymer that goes on your solar panels? If you're going to manufacture them, how do you keep it clean and static free?
Yeah, big risk.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
I'm glad these conversations take on a life of their own. It makes the show special. I think Charles, you were up. You want to have something to say?
So I'm probably one of the more unusual guests here because Michael has no idea why I'm here.
So let's find out.
I want to just tell you that I've been a technologist my whole life for 50 years, but in terms of space, I'm really unusual because I'm a fanboy primarily. So I ran into Michael originally at 22 years ago at the Boston World Science Fiction Convention, which is where he is presenting about the space elevator back then. And he convinced me through a website that had a thing that said return on investment 40 years, 100 years, or 100 years plus. So I checked that one. Okay, so that's how we became friends.
And we worked on a lot of very cool early experiments. We had a blinding snowstorm. We had a crawler going up and down a little tiny version of the tapestry. Went to Northwest.
At MIT, by the way.
Yeah, the green building, 36 floors high. Yeah. And then there was a big balloon getting FAA clearance in the Northwest. And you had that little car that we were driving. Anyway, so I've been there forever. I flew at my own dime in 2011 when we shifted to the Lunar Space Elevator 15 years ago now. And so I've been a big fan for a long time. But one of the reasons I came here was I thought, I wonder if I can actually use Anthropic Claude code at lunch to build a simulation based on lift port data. And so I did. It took 90 minutes.
Okie doke.
Yeah. At lunch today, I used Anthropic Claude code. It using the $400 level, the business level.
Mm-hmm.
And in 90 minutes, it built a paragraph of what I thought you were doing. And what it's doing now in Agents is reading all of the lift port transparency documents and video, and it's going to make a better version of this. And I brought with me a headset so we can make something that's both educational and for investors. And Michael had no idea I was doing this, but I just thought I'd show up and see like what I could come up with. So on the laptop and the VR headset, if anybody has feedback about what you want to see, I can produce something by the end of the conference. So,
thanks, Charles.
Brilliant.
Nice
Okay, thank you.
I have not seen Charles since
7 to 8, 10 years, maybe even
no. The last time I saw you
20
was at the
Oh,
at the
15
last
years.
blue
Yeah.
experiment. That's 15
Well, I've got a
years
nice
ago.
beard now, one of the gray beards.
Right. Yeah, I'm working on it. Well, thank you, Charles. Thank you. We've only got about 15 more minutes left. Is there anything like open mic? Anybody want to talk about anything? You haven't said anything. I don't know who you are. Hi.
Hi. So, shall I sit in the hot seat?
Sure. Sure, come on. It'd be great.
Hi, I'm Michael.
Hey, I'm Ken Gojo. Nice to meet you. So, I went to a lot of these conferences maybe 20 years ago, 2006, 2007, that sort of a thing. And I've been off in New York City, working on Wall Street and stuff like that for many, many years. And now I'm starting to try to become active as a space investor. And it's really interesting to see the difference between now and then, because back then, if you walked in and said, hey, I can write a $5,000 check, you'd have 20 guys lining up. Work with me. Now it's like, you go out to these space investment conferences and it's like, hey, I can write a check for $1 million. It's like, get out of here. It's like, it's not even worth talking about. So there's a very interesting, I'm kind of like trying to search to see like where exactly my niche will be at the current moment. I've had kind of evolutions of ideas about geopolitics, and I see a lot of this stuff going on these days is, hey, here's a bunch of space guys, let's make them be the latest pawns in the latest bankers wars and stuff like that, and I'm not very interested in, there's amazing guys in the military and everything, but I'm much more interested in building up a self-sustaining space economy and that sort of thing. So yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to get out and come back to ISDC for the first time in a long time and look at it with new eyes and that sort of thing.
Well, you're one of the reasons why we exist in the first place.
Pretty much.
Tom and I met in 2002 at the Mars Society conference. I just started working on the space elevator, and Tom was working on the
old Colony Fund project that, that was 20 years ahead of its time, but now is going out. Now it's actually kind of working in a certain form. Starbridge Capital has done some of our things that we kind of pioneered. We were working out, well, what will we invest in? And now, and how would you do it? And they're doing some of those things. They have their own options involved, but they're the only people that actually gave me credit for doing anything. So I love those guys. Yes, I think they take money from normal people. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
There's a few funds out there that are doing it.
Yeah.
Starbridge Space Fund, to a lesser degree, Paragon. There's a couple, and then there's the
Starbridge is that Michael Mealing?
Mealing.
Yep.
And Stephen
Jorgensen. Yeah.
And then Rich Godwin's floating around here somewhere. He's got some
Oh,
stuff
wow.
going on.
He had a book company way back.
He did.
That's his brother.
His brother.
That's Rob.
So I mean, so Tom's been running the space investment
Summit.
business. Well, I was going to say the business plan company.
The business plan company. We've been doing that since 2009. And they actually have been involved in Space Investment Summit since 2007.
So space investments, what's that?
Oh, that's where, well, I was a bunch of investors get in a room and, no. This is something we did. It came as a part of the old Space Business Roundtable in the late 90s, the early 2000s with Boeing and a lot of those people. And one of the guys who was working there at the time, Paul Eckert is his name. He ended up at FAA and then he retired a few years ago, but he started that thing. I started working with him on that. I don't even remember how he got my name, but but we did this thing. But first one we did this in New York City, and some people from The Economist were there covering it, of all things. But it was one of those things where this is one of the first times we actually invite a whole bunch of different kinds of investors from different ideas to talk up space, because a lot of them were just wanting to find out about space. They didn't really know a lot. They weren't involved. The giggle factor was still very high. Well, we got like 60 people to attend. They were all investors, and we said, no pitching companies can come to this thing. This is by investors for investors only. And so it was one of the first things that we did. And we've done over a dozen of them since then, between 2007 and now. And we're doing another one in Antalya, Turkey, just the day before the IAC. Between the Space Generation Congress and IAC, there is that Sunday. We're going to fill that Sunday with some very interesting people from around the world this time. That would be actually, I think it's September 30th.
Can I ask, I have this question. I had no idea. China actually has like 5 different rocket companies that are all at very interesting stages right now.
Yep.
As an American, is it remotely allowed to invest in Chinese companies these days?
That's
as an individual, absolutely you can.
Yeah. Institutional guys, I think there are international agreements and also a regulatory environment in this country that would probably, they would look at it, with scrutiny. Let's put it that way.
Some brand new rules. They just came out with the new SBIR rules that if you are a company that has questionable investors, you're going to get barred from the new SBIR set of rules.
Sure.
So there's definitely some problems if the money is coming this direction. I got offered $3 million 7 years ago, and I had to turn it down because I knew if I took that one check, I was never going to get another check. Money coming in this direction, it's really watched. Money moving that direction, not so much that I'm aware of. I don't know if that's counters.
I think that's tied in, if you think of the purpose behind the Wolf Amendment, it was all about technology transfer. And the parallel here is that if you're sending your money out, you're sending out money. You're not sending out IT. But if that money is coming in, it's like, okay, show us the IP in exchange for my money. So it's to prevent the outflow of IP.
You had a comment there?
Yeah,
Is it Brad?
Blair.
Blair, sorry.
That goes to DFAR, the Department of Defense's federal acquisition, that you have to have sources of capital clean.
That's for American companies.
For American companies doing business with the DoD.
Sure.
So the FAR is not as specific, but DFAR is very.
But he was asking the other question. He was asking you to invest overseas, right?
Are there any issues? Let's say I find some amazing Chinese company and I put money into it. Do now I become like a suspicious person and now I can't invest?
I'm not going to answer that.
Oh my God.
I haven't had.
Since we develop projects mainly with Global South, I'm going to involve partners who may or may not be under some form of US entry, which change all the time. So by definition, we have to be able to navigate that. And the simple answer to your question is yes, be very watchful, because the thing is, it's not so much a question of what's in the law, because it changes very quickly these days. And in ways that seem very capricious. The thing is, it's the you can be in that limbo space where you could be suspicious, and just that is attract not only undue, not necessarily attention, but there's a whole bunch of stakeholders useful, whether they be business partners or technology partners or else who are going to stay with us. We're not quite so sure. But one way to navigate them, at least on the legal side, is actually to use different jurisdictions. So this is something that we've developed. So because we have an international number of employees, so we are never going to put them in a position where they have to violate the laws of the country they reside in or the country where they're from. So there's definitely some things that we go, okay, the Americans that work for us. This includes we employ from veterans, including veterans from U.S. military intelligence. So you can imagine how sensitive they're involved will be. But there are ways to navigate them. We use people that have a different nationality and we use different jurisdictions so that we can work with the Chinese, for example, on space technology in Africa. That's the best way to address it.
And there must be lawyers who specialize.
Yes.
There's always lawyers.
There's always lawyers.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have about 4 minutes to go. I want to know if somebody will volunteer this. We always ask our guests, at the end of each show, what do you think the world's going to look like in this industry in 5 years and 25 years? Is there anyone here who would like to take a crack at that?
Really? Come on, have some courage.
Well, I know
No, or you're down to go. You can sit there. You come here. I don't care which. What does our world look? What does our space world look like in 5 years and 25 years?
5 years, I think Elon Musk will be a multi-trillionaire because he will have achieved his wing. Yeah. Probably.
Michael's approving. Good answer. Good.
Already started building his first data centers in space. That will, and I hope he will have started rolling out. It'll be interesting to see if he started using them as also power centers, because that's one area that's of particular interest to me, because that's one gap that still exists with regards to Africa rolling out its own technology. So Africa is getting very good at integrating 5G, AI, etc. How to transmit the energy from space to the ground is something that has not been appropriated yet within Africa. So maybe that's another gap that will be filled within the next 5 years.
25 years is tough.
Yeah. 25 years, I can make a wild guess, because this involves a larger issue, geopolitics. How will the powers that are jostling to control and define right now the space technologies and other technologies, because it's all integrated. Because one of the realities here is that there's this concept of hot war and cold places. Like we've obviously these days we have to be focused on the risk of a World War III. That's in everybody's heads. But there are some allies who said, well, World War III has already started. It's just you're not seeing it. It's a hot war in cold places. It's happening way deep in the sea. With undersea cables. It's happening in the Arctic, and it's happening in space already.
Yeah.
There are talks of some powers setting up nuclear.
I'm going to remember that's a great term. I'm going to remember a hot war in cold places. Wow.
Exactly. And so, exactly. Yeah, exactly. People know Green. She's done some great presentations about that. I think the expression is hers actually. So I recommend everyone to watch her, because she lays it out in great detail. And I will, even though I have some issues with some of her points, I would emulate her optimism.
Okay.
So for 20 to 25 years down the line, the great powers have ended the jostling the way so far it has always ended, which is with a big hug. She's actually right about that.
I like that. I like that very much.
1962, Cuban Missile Crisis and ended with a big hug.
Yep, it did.
And,
Yep.
Reagan Gorbachev ended with a big hug.
Yep.
So thankfully,
Every 80 years or so, we go through this. So, and here we go again, Yeah.
Exactly. So in 25 years, it ended with a big hug, and the main global powers have decided that because the risk of confrontation is catastrophic, they're better off working together.
Yep.
And so we have a productive, integrated global lower Earth orbit economy that's exploded. That includes obviously data, but also energy that we can, and that concentrates most of our data centers. And
Yep.
my hope specifically is that within that, Africa has carved out a strategic space, because
Right.
Africa has developed
Absolutely.
its own satellite constellation, a million dwarfing Elon Musk. And actually, dwarfing Elon Musk. And hopefully along the way, we have a few African businessmen that have also become trillionaires, including dwarfing his money. And it's able, because of that, the leapfrog that I hope for has actually happened. By leveraging and integrating those technologies through the lower Earth orbit economy and sector, Africa has transformed itself and helped transform the world as well. So that's
Great. And on that, this is great. Thank you. Thank you so much, young man. And on that, we have to end it. I can't believe 2 hours has gone by already. And you guys are also brave. You stuck it out this whole time. And thank you so much for coming. And so I just say, as I always say, for Michael Lane and Sean Key, the folks at home, and all you lovely people who are in here today for the second annual live show. Thank you so much for being here. And my name is Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies.
always.
Nice to see you. Yeah, you said you were living here. Yeah, but like